Right, diving right into the deep dive today. And we're going to be tackling something that I think a lot of you have been asking about,
Yeah.
which is REST over? We've gotten a bunch of articles from you folks out there about the rise of protocol buffers and
Right.
gRPC.
Right.
So clearly this is on people's minds.
It is a hot topic.
Yeah, it is.
There's a lot of buzz out there about these newer technologies.
Yeah.
You know, it's easy to get caught up in the hype.
Right. But we're not here to chase trends.
No.
We want to really dig deep and understand not only how REST stacks up against this protobuf gRPC combo,
Right.
but also when to use which approach.
Exactly. And I guess, spoiler alert, REST isn't going extinct.
Okay.
It's more about, understanding where its strengths lie.
Right.
And where these newer approaches might offer a significant edge.
Okay, so to set the stage a little bit,
Yeah.
REST has been a dominant force in API design for years.
Absolutely.
It's simple.
Yes.
It uses those familiar HTTP methods.
Yep.
And it relies on JSON, which is pretty much universally understood.
Exactly. I mean, Roy Fielding laid out those REST principles back in 2000.
Right.
And it's been incredibly successful.
Mm-hmm.
But as software systems have evolved, particularly with the rise of microservices,
Right.
we are seeing some cracks in that RESTful foundation.
Okay, cracks, you say. Now you've got my attention. Tell me more.
Well, imagine you're building a massive system with hundreds or even thousands of microservices constantly talking to each other.
Yeah.
Those simple request-response cycles of REST, where each request has to wait for a response before moving on, can start to create bottlenecks.
Right, all that back and forth could really bog things down.
Yeah, exactly. And on top of that, JSON, while easy to read, is relatively verbose.
Okay.
It's like sending a long, detailed email
Right.
when a short text message would do.
So you're saying that in these complex high-performance scenarios,
Yes.
REST can start to feel a bit
sluggish.
Yeah. And that's where protocol buffers, or protobuf for short, steps onto the scene.
Okay.
It's a way to serialize data in a binary format,
Right.
which is much more compact and efficient than text-based JSON.
So it's like compressing a file before you send it.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah, you get the same information, but in a smaller package.
Exactly. And in fact, studies have shown that protobuf can be up to 5 times faster than JSON for serialization and deserialization.
Okay.
And when you're talking about millions of requests per second,
right,
those milliseconds add up.
They do.
Yeah.
Okay, so protobuf makes things faster.
Yeah.
But it's not an API architecture in and of itself, right?
Correct. Protobuf is just the data format.
Okay.
It's gRPC that builds on top of protobuf.
Okay.
And provides the framework for building APIs.
Right.
gRPC uses HTTP2, which allows for persistent connection and bidirectional streaming.
Oh, hold on. Bidirectional streaming.
What does that mean? Like 2 services can be talking at the same time?
Exactly, like a real-time chat app.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that's one of the key advantages of gRPC.
Yeah.
It's ideal for scenarios where you need real-time data exchange. Like financial transactions, streaming video, or even multiplayer gaming.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty powerful, but I'm guessing there's a trade-off.
Of course, nothing's perfect.
Right, nothing's perfect.
Yeah, one downside is that protobuf isn't human readable.
Okay.
Like JSON is.
Right.
So debugging can be a bit trickier.
Okay.
Especially for developers who are used to seeing the data in a text format.
So you need special tools then to decipher these binary messages.
There are some fantastic tools available that make it quite manageable. And frankly, the performance gains often outweigh the added debugging complexity, especially when dealing with these large-scale systems.
Okay, so it seems like the big question isn't, is REST over? But when does REST still make sense?
Right.
And when should we consider gRPC?
That's the real deep dive.
And that's what we're going to be exploring as we go through these articles.
Exactly.
Right, let's do it.
Let's dive into some of these articles that you've shared that outline some real-world use cases.
Yeah.
One that caught my eye is about a company that was struggling to scale its REST API for a mobile app.
Yeah, I saw that when their user base exploded and suddenly those once snappy API calls were taking forever.
Exactly. And they were facing some real challenges with data consistency across their microservices.
Yeah.
Moving to gRPC and protobuf significantly reduced latency, and the strict structure of protobuf helped them eliminate data errors, which had been a major headache.
Yeah, that's a great example of how gRPC can really shine in a microservices environment.
Yes.
But it seems like that strictness of protobuf is a double-edged sword.
It is.
All right, less flexible,
Yeah.
but also less room for error.
It's a trade-off for sure.
Right.
You gain performance and reliability,
Mm-hmm.
but you lose some
Yeah.
of the flexibility you have with JSON, which can be easily modified on the fly.
Right. It's like
Yeah, it's like the difference
Yeah.
between a meticulously engineered bridge
Right.
and a rope bridge.
Hmm.
The rope bridge is adaptable,
Okay.
but might sway a bit in the wind,
Right.
whereas the engineered bridge
Yeah.
is solid but harder to modify once built.
That's a really good way to put it.
Yeah.
So it sounds like choosing between REST and gRPC isn't just about
Right.
technical specs.
Exactly.
It's about understanding the trade-offs
Yeah.
and choosing the right tool for the job,
Absolutely.
as with any engineering decision.
Another article you share highlighted a company that chose REST for its public API,
Okay.
but used gRPC internally
Right.
for communication between its microservices.
Yes, the hybrid approach.
The hybrid approach.
That seems to be gaining popularity.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
For a public API,
Mhm.
you want something that's widely adopted and
Right.
easy to use,
Yeah.
which is where REST excels.
Right.
Internally, you can prioritize performance and efficiency.
So they're getting the best of both worlds.
Exactly.
It's like having a sleek,
Right.
user-friendly storefront,
Yep.
but then a super efficient warehouse behind the scenes.
Exactly. And speaking of user-friendly,
Okay.
one of your articles mentioned GraphQL.
Yes.
I'm curious to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, GraphQL seems to be getting a lot of attention lately. It's a query language for APIs
Right.
that allows clients to request only the data they need,
Yeah.
which can be more efficient than REST's fixed data structures.
It addresses the problem of overfetching,
Right.
where you get a whole bunch of data you don't actually need.
Yeah.
With GraphQL,
Yeah.
you can be very specific in your request.
So it's like ordering a la carte instead of getting the prefix menu.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because while GraphQL is often seen as an alternative to REST,
Right.
it can actually be used with different transport protocols,
Okay.
including gRPC.
Oh, wow.
So you could potentially have a GraphQL API
Yeah.
running over gRPC,
Okay.
combining the benefits of both approaches.
Wow. That's really blurring the lines.
It is. It certainly is.
Seems like the API landscape is
Yeah.
becoming more and more nuanced.
We're moving away from these hard and fast rules
Right.
and embracing a more flexible, adaptable approach
Okay.
to API design.
Speaking of flexibility, one article touched on the developer experience.
Yeah.
And some developers find gRPC's code generation and IDL
Yes.
to be a bit intimidating
Yeah.
compared to REST's straightforward HTTP calls
Hmm.
and JSON manipulation.
That's a valid point.
Yeah.
There is a learning curve with gRPC,
Right.
but there are also some great tools and frameworks emerging
Okay.
that make working with gRPC easier and more intuitive.
Right.
And once you get past that initial hurdle,
Yeah.
the performance benefits and type safety
Hmm.
can be a real game changer.
So it's like learning a new programming language.
Exactly.
Might take some effort up front,
Yeah.
but it can open up new possibilities.
And let's not forget about security.
Okay.
gRPC often uses mutual TLS authentication,
Mhm.
which provides a higher level of security
Right.
than what's typically used with REST.
That's a big one, especially as APIs become
Absolutely.
increasingly critical to business operations.
And as with any technology,
Right.
the gRPC ecosystem is constantly evolving with new tools and best practices emerging all the time.
Staying up to date and being part of that community is crucial.
Absolutely.
It's not just about learning a technology, it's about being part of
It is.
a dynamic and evolving space.
Well said. I think the key takeaway here is that the REST versus gRPC debate is too simplistic.
Right.
It's not a binary choice.
it's about understanding the strengths and weaknesses of each
Exactly.
and making an informed decision
Yeah.
based on the specific needs
Your application.
of your application and your team's expertise.
Exactly.
And being open to new ideas.
Yes.
After all, who knows what the next big thing in API design will be?
Right. We might be having a whole different deep dive a year from now.
Wow. It feels like we've covered a ton of ground here.
We have.
We started with this question of, is REST over?
Right.
And quickly realized that
Yeah.
it's not about declaring a winner or a loser here.
It's not a binary choice.
Yeah, it's more about recognizing that the landscape has expanded.
Exactly.
REST is still here. It's still got a place.
It does.
But now we have these other tools like
Right.
gRPC and GraphQL that offer these really unique advantages.
In certain scenarios.
In certain scenarios, right?
Yeah.
And it's so fascinating to me that these technologies aren't mutually exclusive.
They're not?
We're seeing these hybrid architectures.
Absolutely.
That combine the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Right? So you might use REST for your external API where it's all about simplicity.
Simplicity and compatibility.
Yeah. And then internally, you leverage gRPC.
Right.
For that performance. Critical communication.
Between microservices.
Yes, exactly.
One thing that struck me as we were talking about these articles is this evolution in API design really reflects the changing nature of software development itself.
Totally.
We're building more distributed systems,
Yeah,
embracing microservices, and dealing with increasingly complex data flows.
Right. It's like the whole industry is shifting towards this more interconnected, data-driven approach.
Absolutely.
And APIs are right at the heart of that.
They are. They are at the center of it all.
They are, yeah.
And as those systems become more intricate, the need for speed, efficiency, and reliability in API communication becomes even more crucial.
Yeah.
And that's where technologies like gRPC, with its binary data format and support for bidirectional streaming, can really make a difference.
It's like we're moving from a world of paved roads to a world of high-speed rail lines.
I love that.
Right. REST is still a reliable way to get around.
Yeah.
But sometimes you need that
speed.
Extra boost. Speed and efficiency.
I think that's a great analogy. And it highlights how important it is to choose the right tool for the job.
Right.
There's no one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to API design. It's about understanding the trade-offs, considering the specific needs of your application.
Right.
And even taking into account your team's expertise and comfort level with different technologies.
One question that comes to mind is, how do you see this API landscape evolving in the future?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah. Any predictions or any trends that you're excited about?
It's hard to say for sure.
Of course.
But I think we'll continue to see a move towards more specialized API technologies that cater to very specific needs. We might even see new protocols emerge that challenge the dominance of HTTP.
It's like the Cambrian explosion of APIs.
Yes.
All these new forms and functions emerging.
It is.
To meet the demands of the digital world.
I think that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And I think the role of AI and machine learning in API design is going to become increasingly significant.
Interesting.
We might see AI-powered tools that help us optimize API performance, automate security testing, and even generate API documentation.
So it seems like the future of API design is not just about building better APIs, but building smarter APIs.
Exactly, and that's what makes it so exciting.
Yeah.
You know, it's constantly evolving, and there's always something new to learn and explore.
Well, on that note,
yeah,
I think it's time for us to wrap up this deep dive.
I agree.
I hope our listeners are feeling a bit more informed and maybe even a little inspired.
Absolutely.
To explore these new API technologies and all the possibilities they hold.
It's been a pleasure diving into this topic with you.
Likewise. And to our listeners, remember, the conversation doesn't end here.
It doesn't.
Share your thoughts and questions.
Please do.
And experiences in the comments.
Yes.
And let's keep this discussion going.
Keep learning.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning,
and
keep diving deep.